Hello, my dearest entrepreneur friends. Welcome back to the Omni Channel podcast. I'm in bed and I have about 30 minutes before I have to hop on a call. I just came back from Italy. It's been such an amazing trip, but I need to actively manage my energy because I'm about to step on stage today for the first time in my improv comedy journey. And I'm just trying to get some rest because I traveled 4 hours today. And again, I need my brain to be functioning at optimal condition. And so, what I wanted to talk about today is, first of all, I'm running a program called Expressed. And this program is for entrepreneurs who genuinely want to express in a way that lands with people. And the deepest, I would say, North Star of the program is to become someone whose expression is actually moving people, not just hearing you. They're actually impacted by what you have to say. It's about how do I express in a way that lands with people so that when I speak, they pay attention. When I speak, there's something in them that starts seeding. There's something in them that starts growing. There's something in them that is making sense. There's something in them that is being seen. There's something in them that feels recognized. There's just something in them that is moving them to where they want to go, to an outcome, or to see something from a perspective they've never seen before, or to discover something that will change the way they see their situations and their businesses and their lives. There's side of them that can play, reconnect with that side of them, that can enjoy expression for expression's sake. Before they fell into, oh, they need to optimize this for the likes and the content, and what do I say so people do things, and so how do I get them to buy? How do I get them to see the value of what I'm offering? Like those questions, they're not what you want to ask. How can I express in a way that when I do, they recognize themselves in it, and therefore they move because they see that you understand them deeply. That is Expressed. And we're starting June 17. So if you want to come into the program, it's going to be linked in the description of this video. Now, there's something I want to talk about today, and that is around expression. And since I'm going to step on stage, I'm already feeling quite nervous, to be honest with you. And the thing is with improvising is that I'm doing this purposely because I want to be okay with not knowing exactly what I'm going to say and building that muscle of trusting my own intuition of what emerges in me in the moment to see if I can let go of the tension and anxiety of this has to be a certain way, and then just to have fun and play and let people see me in that state. And I think many times when we are either have something we want to say, many times we script things, right? But improv actually pushes you to stop scripting and be in the present moment, right? Because when we are in the present moment, we aren't so much worried about, did I memorize my lines well? It's about what needs to emerge in the moment will have to be emerging in a moment, and trusting that expression instead of filtering and withholding. And I think to me, improv really helped me unlock that side of me that was overthinking before speaking. Before I stepped into a scene, I was like, okay, I'm going to say this. So by the time I get there, this will be this, But improv really is like, nope, no prep time, you go. And in the moment, you'll figure it out, and many times you're reacting what's in front of you. So it's quite an interesting experience, I have to tell you. But there's something about expression I wanted to talk about to you today, and that has to do with coherence, and that has to do with regulation, and has to do with how do we maintain coherence when we express. Now, about a week ago, before I went to Italy, I was hosting a workshop. And this workshop was about how to overcome the fear of being seen. And this was specifically done for intuitive entrepreneurs, more on the introverted side. But the underlying issues are, I feel like they're so universal. I had a lot of people say a lot of things around what they fear will happen. And many times the visibility or fear of being seen isn't something they are afraid of. What they are afraid of is the consequence of what happens when they are seen, right? Either being rejected or they think something of them, or they don't recognize themselves anymore, or the friends, they don't recognize themselves anymore. And they're like, who are you, right? So I don't want to go into the depths of that one. If you want to come in again, I'm going to host it again. I will let you know the details of that as well. But what I wanted to mention is that there was this specific person who said that, actually in the Q&A section of the workshop, he said that I don't like to speak up because I don't want to be considered as a know-it-all. And also, I feel like when I speak up about something in my workplace, I sound like a buffoon. That's the expression he said. I sound like a buffoon. And I don't want to sound like a buffoon. And it's so interesting to me because yes, you might sound like a buffoon. And I was asking him, like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean you sound like a buffoon? Like, how does the buffoon sound like? It's more like, what do you think you sound like when you speak? And he tells me that when he's very nervous, like there is just something comes over him and he's rambling. He's a little bit all over the place and he doesn't know why. And he doesn't like that part of him. It's just somehow this comes out of him and it's just weird. It's kind of like when you have to sing in front of a class. I don't know if you had to do this in school. We had this. Many kids absolutely hated this. On music class, when you had to stand up and basically sing in front of the whole class. And it was this public embarrassment experience, and especially the cool guys, they really hated it. They resisted it. I mean, making someone sing in front of the rest of the classmates and grading them, also giving them a 1 to 5, honestly, I don't know. It's not really something I can fully stand behind. But many times, what happened for me was, first of all, I love to sing. And when I had to sing in front of the class, what happened was I was so nervous. I was like, in the alphabet, I know Dominical as the beginning of the alphabet. I know I'm right there. I'm right there. I'm pretty soon I'm coming, and exactly you're the 6th. And then who's before you, and like as the anticipation is building up and you are like, it's gonna be me soon. Yeah, that's how it feels. But I remember standing up in front of the class and I tried to sing and I sounded nothing like I sounded like. Like I know how I sound like in the bathroom when I sing, in the uncomfort of my home when I sing. But when I was singing in front of my whole class, I sounded like some sort of broken violin, at least to me. And that's when I realized, and I want to put this example next to the do I sound like a buffoon, is that whenever, and I will talk about why, but whenever we are under stress, anxiety, we sound different, right? Because we're stressing out. Like stress is affecting our vocal abilities and it also affects our thinking abilities. Can you believe that? So this also means, and by the way, we're going to go into the biology of everything because I loved understanding this to the degree that I did, simply because high performance, like athletes that are actually competing, they know this and they use it to their benefits. But here's the catch. Whenever we are anxious or nervous, what happens is naturally our heart rate and our blood pressure goes higher, right? And so what happens is, like when I'm sitting here right now, I would say my heart rate is about 85 to 90 BPM, right? But whenever I'm getting into a more heightened state, like because I'm anxious or nervous, my heart rate goes up. And with that, my cognitive functions, there's something starts to happen in the brain. So when I'm entering to 120, what happens is that you get to optimal peak performance. Why? Because whenever I'm standing on stage, and let's assume I'm hosting a webinar, if I was to speak with my 80 BPM calm heart rate, I would probably sound calm, like this. And I would take pauses when I speak. And that would probably put you to sleep. But whenever I'm back to activation and I'm speaking from activation, like excitement, you can feel the energy, right? There's a different energy that you can hear, not just through my voice, but through how I'm breathing, how I'm regulating, how I'm there's tempo, there is movement in the way we speak at this level. But if I was to get really, really anxious and really nervous, you know what would happen? I would start fumbling and stumbling over my words. And we all do that. We all are affected. Because what happens is that when we hit the threshold of optimal performance, and this is, by the way, scientifically researched, most athletes and high performers, they consciously regulate to keep their heart rate between the range of performance so it doesn't go over. Because after around 160, 70, what happens to your brain is your cognitive functions are getting compromised. And when your cognitive functions are getting compromised, what is actually goes offline is your prefrontal cortex. And amygdala takes over, which is responsible for emotions, right? That's where fight, flight, all the responses, they come. And that is what moves the blood to your legs and arms so you can run from threat, which is what essentially happens to the body when you're feeling stressed out because of a perceived danger. But essentially, with that, your prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for critical thinking, is actually losing its functions, right? So first of all, it would lose coherence. So you would start rambling, your voice would start to shake, you would sound like no one you can ever recognize. And then suddenly you would stop making sense. And there's a point where your memory is offline. You can't remember facts anymore. You're not so sharp anymore. And there are times when your brain is basically a vegetable. Like when you are over 175, you're a vegetable brain, basically. So when we are in vegetable brain, I mean, at that point, like, you really don't make sense anymore because your prefrontal cortex is offline. So many times when we are activated and we are in a role of expression, whether it's something so trivial that to speak up about an issue for what matters, like it could be a relationship issue, it could be a business issue, something that matters to you, you will get activated. And the trick isn't to not have activation, because we talked about how when we speak with more activation, our words, they land more with people versus when we speak slowly like that. They might land, but they would feel different, right? So it's not just the speed, it's not just the tempo, it's the range in which we can play with our expressions. But why we regulate is to maintain coherence. And the way I like to do this is, I think, is like breathing helps, like definitely inhale 4 seconds, exhale, hand on chest is very, very helpful to ground yourself. You're okay, you're here, you're fine. But at the same time, you don't have to lose the activation. You just need to keep it at a level so you still make sense. Does that make sense? I think the hardest the conversation is, the more emotional we are touched by something, whether it's anxiety because we are going to step on stage, or host an event or speak in front of people, or it could just be perhaps you having to escalate an issue that you think is important to discuss with a client or with whoever. It's a conversation, it's a sales conversation, right? And there's an element in which there are emotions involved. You will feel that. You will feel activation. The trick isn't to not feel it, it's to work with it so that it turns to your advantage. And you need to regulate for that, right? Because if you don't regulate, we just talked about it, you lose coherence, people will not understand you. You also lose credibility in the way you speak because you lose conviction. When you are looking like you're not okay, people can, first of all, sense it, but they can also kind of read it from your body language, right? That you can tell if someone is uncomfortable, if someone is anxious and nervous. You don't have to be a super empath to read that on body language in terms of what people are saying. And there was this show I was watching, I think it was The Millionaire Secret. And the whole show and the whole premise of the show, if you've seen it on Netflix, is about one person having $1 million in their box and they have to lie that they don't have it. And basically the rest of the group have to vote for who has the $1 million. And at the end of the show, someone gets to win the $1 million. But you have to kind of lie really well, and you have to hold tension really well, and people are onto you. You have to not show that. And it's so hard for people because it's an unnatural state to be super calm, and on the inside, you're like, they're onto me, right? And in that show, what I have found interesting is how when people are getting blamed that they are the millionaires, and even though they are not, like how triggered they get. And when they get triggered, you guys, there was this one lady, I think in her maybe 60s, late 50s, and someone blamed her that she's a millionaire and she knew she wasn't. And guys, she was so triggered that she was like rambling, she was crying. It was a mess. And that made her look more suspicious, you guys. Even though she wasn't a millionaire, but that made her look suspicious because when people are losing coherence, like, oh, there must be something off there, right? And the credibility goes out of the window. Like, we're like, oh, you're behaving very suspiciously, right? So when we speak with conviction, we keep coherence and we make sense, it's actually a superpower to regulate yourself to that state where you're not, super calm. It depends on what you want, but being reasonable, staying coherent, and even if activated, but being able to maintain that coherence is actually going to help you land wherever you want to land, and have people believe in what you are saying more. And not doubt those words so much because you are coherent under pressure, right? And this was something I had to learn. For me, the work with the activation is essentially a thing that I'm still mastering. And I don't think it's easy. I think it's definitely a challenge, especially if you care about a cause or if you care about why you want to express something. I think so much as if the care is there and you want to be good and you want people to receive you well, like, of course that will turn on some of that activation that potentially could escalate into coherence loss. But I think the key is to, first of all, breathe. I think breathing helps always. Moving your body helps always. Staying in the moment helps always. Like, let's not anticipate scenarios that didn't happen. Let's stay with what we see. And also just, slowing down, pausing. It helps as well. Okay? So another thing I want to add here is I never really doubted whether or not what I say matters. And I think that's a big for other people because I think most of us, when we are expressing, and I had this guy in my class in improv. He didn't come a lot of the times, but basically he had such hard time speaking up because what he learned is that what he has to say is not important. That when he came home from school, mom didn't ask how was school. And he learned that what I have to say doesn't really matter. It's not important. So I'm not going to say it. I think that's such a heartbreaking experience for a child, and to become an adult that believes that what I say doesn't matter. It doesn't change anything. If I speak, it's dangerous. If I speak, it will hurt people. If I speak, it will be ignored. In fact, I had one person for the master class that, you know what, my fear isn't so much about expression. It's about if I express, they won't care. It won't change anything. And I think that also goes back to that wound of what I say don't matter. It doesn't matter what I say. Right? So what if what you say matters? And can that be your baseline? Like, can you get around the fact that everyone's expression matters? That if you have something you want to say, you should be able to say it. And I'm not saying we're unfiltered or uncalibrated. It's more about enjoying the freedom of expression for the sake of expressing something. Because you think matters, and that's okay. And that's enough. Even if the rest of the world doesn't think it does, the fact that you believe that it mattered, it's worth saying. I don't know. I like to believe that people have interesting things to say and stories to tell and wisdom to share. That's what I believe. So, if you want to come into Expressed, I would love to see you and teach you inside of this live program. We're gonna do at least 3 modules for 3 weeks. So every week you'll get access to a module. I have a lot to say about this and what I found that really moves people. What are the nervous system states in which we move people more, not just in terms of our anxiety management and how do we regulate. I think regulation is baseline, but more of like what is actually something that people pick up on, and how to reconnect with that side of you and how to stay with that expression even under pressure. Because when we start being visible, people might disagree with us, and that's part of the game. Okay, so if you want to come in for Expressed, I'm going to put a link in the description of this episode. Thank you so much for listening to this one. Wish me luck for tonight. I'm already feeling much better. Thanks, guys.